Welcome, righteous dudes, to Geek Salad's Retro Movie Reviews. From the Geek Salad Podcast, I'm Andy.
And I'm Mike.
And tonight we are talking about a 1980s teen classic. A classic so huge, we could not do this alone. So we have not just one, but two amazing guest hosts. That is Derek and Laurel from the Midnight Myth Podcast. Welcome to Geek Salad, guys.
Hey, y'all. Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. It's been, it's funny because, I remember we ended up on the same, Christmas card mailing list about 2 years ago for one of the Twitter things. And then we kind of we've all fallen in with M from Verbal Diorama. So it's like we're all part of the M circle at all times. So
we're in M's orbit, yeah.
We are all in M's orbit. So it makes me very happy we can finally do something together. I am really psyched about that because your show is one of the most unique takes on movies I think I've ever heard. I'm trying to get my wife to listen to it. And it's just one of those things where she's all about history. She listens to a lot of history podcasts and stuff. And I'm like, you got to listen to Derek and Laurel. So I think one day when we have a car ride, just the two of us, I might just have to pop that on her. But for those of you who don't know the Midnight Myth, tell me about it. Tell our listeners about that.
You want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing it for a while now, and Laurel and I, our passion in life academically has been the study of history, mythology, and philosophy. And we don't really get to do that in our day jobs at all, right? There's no jobs in that. So we would just go to theater, we'd go to movies, and we would kind of discuss where these subjects exist in popular storytelling. I got the opportunity to guest lecture for a Battlestar Galactica rewatch.
Oh,
yeah. And I got to talk about the role of American military history in that show. And by a friend of mine who just offered, hey, you know your history. Do you want to come and do this? And I was like, yeah, of course. And so Laurel and I were dating at that time, and we had so much fun. She helped me out so much with it that we launched a podcast based off of that. It's also kind of the story of our relationship, too, because we started as boyfriend and girlfriend. Then we got engaged. Then we got married. Now we have a baby. So it's very much, it's very much about us and our life and how we apply those subjects to popular storytelling.
That's amazing. It is such a fun podcast. It's very educational, and because there's always things about it that when I listen to it, I'm always finding stuff that I didn't even think was kind of pertinent to the conversation, and you bring it in, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my first question, guys. Ferris Bueller, I let you pick this movie.
Yeah.
What made you want to discuss Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Whew. I mean, so that was one that I pitched because I was thinking, what are some movies that came out in our prime movies that we were coming up with or that were meaningful to us at meaningful times in our lives, and we're kicking around some really heady stuff. And then I was like, also there's John Hughes movies, and there's Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and we do a project a little sort of bonus project through the Midnight Myth. Because if you've ever listened, our intro is what is the perfect story? And we have this whole sort of mythical quest to find the perfect story. And we've come up with the scientific formula for how to determine what is a perfect movie. And I think Ferris Bueller might pass the test if we ran it through. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to consider it.
But let's be clear, it's not scientific at all.
It is very, very rigorous. So I think we're going to have to try and run it through and see if it stands up to the test. But yeah, there's something really just deeply charming about John Hughes movies in general that really touched an entire generation and that are having a resurgence in the way that they have been kind of breathed new life into with the Spider-Man movies of all things. And there's this kind of return to the love of the 80s and 90s, and it just felt right. It just felt absolutely right. It's something that I can go back and watch 100,000 times and never get sick of. And you wouldn't think that there are historical, mythological, philosophical elements within Ferris Bueller, but I think there actually kind of are. And that's the thing about the Midnight Myth is sometimes it is a big stretch, what we get. but it's always worth it. And I think the real thing that I want people to take away from like our podcast and the things that we choose is that, yeah, sometimes we're doing 2001: A Space Odyssey and like these great, grand, like AFI top 100 movies. And then sometimes we're doing real like pop culture. And that's movies like Ferris Bueller that are considered great, but are maybe not considered like Oscar worthy. And then sometimes that's trash. Like sometimes we pull trash and we find the value in trash. So it's like, I think a huge part of our podcast is finding like the deep value in the spectrum of everything.
Awesome. That's awesome. And one of our viewers, Kurt, here mentions it's definitely one of the most perfect Chicago movies of all time. It is, in a lot of ways, I feel it is a love letter to Chicago, more so than any John Hughes film has ever done. There's a Shermer, Illinois, throughput of every John Hughes movie. But this one actually really takes you out of the suburbs and puts you into the city and allows you to explore Chicago, a city I've never been to.
Oh, dude, you got to go.
Great town.
I know I gotta go. I can't go anywhere right now.
Cool. So. Yeah. So cool. Just don't go in winter, from what I'm told.
Oh yeah, no,
lake effect right there.
Yeah. So I usually begin our reviews by asking. Oh, there's the dog. When was the first time you saw Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
I have no idea. It's one of those movies, like, I feel like I've just always known.
Right.
I have no idea. I have no idea how I saw it. Go to Chicago, Andy.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you exactly when I saw it for the first time, but I do remember hearing about it for the first time, and it was because it's a Chicago movie, because I have family that lives in Chicago. My dad grew up there, and his sister still lives there. And my cousin, we were talking about our favorite movies. I went there when I was 10, and she was like, my favorite movie is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So I remember hearing that when I was 10 years old, and probably not seeing it for a few years yet. But definitely saw it as like a young teenager. It was not the first John Hughes movie I had seen. I had seen The Breakfast Club, but I think it was probably the second John Hughes movie I saw.
Cool. Mike, how about you?
I probably first saw it maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
I heard about it. I'd never watched it. I bought the DVD back when I was working at Circuit City. That kind of dates it right there. But yeah, I never bothered watching it until I was just thinking, you know what the hell, I'm going to watch it. Yeah, I just watched it. It's my second John Hughes movie, I think, behind Weird Science.
Okay.
But it really kind of feels unique for a John Hughes movie. It feels much different than his other ones. Maybe it's because they do go to the big city and kind of flesh it out a little bit.
I agree with that. There's a lot about... I'm one of those people, I don't believe any movie is completely flawless. Even my favorite movies have got like these flaws, which you can just, look around. But 1986's Ferris Bueller's Day Off and 1987's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles might be John Hughes's two best, hands down, his best movies. This was I didn't see this when it came out in the theater because I didn't have a car. I was like in 8th grade. I didn't have a car, so I couldn't go see it. My first introduction to this movie was actually someone had a video cassette they had rented from the video store, and I was in like my first or second week working at Burger King, and they had these training videos, and all of the training videos were being played on a super fast speed. It's just like the types of tapes that they used would only play on this one speed. So I watched essentially an hour, a 2-hour movie in 20 minutes, maybe. It just went so fast as it was going, and just listening to the high pitched voice, especially with the thing with Chief Sloan when Cameron is doing Sloan's dad.
Yeah.
Just listening to that high pitch is hilarious. But like my first John Hughes movie was 16 Candles, a movie that I have a very complicated relationship with. I used to love it. It was my favorite John Hughes movie. As the years go on, it becomes really problematic.
Yeah.
And I actually discussed this on when we celebrated our 200th episode. This was my I gotta have my mea culpa moment here. I used to like this movie.
Everybody did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
is that the one where he like parades the panties that he gets?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Among other things.
Yeah.
That
Also long
Ed
Racial
does.
stereotypes
and long duck dong, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That doesn't hold up well.
Not good stuff.
No.
The one the John Hughes movie that I probably have the like biggest heart for, whether it's actually a good movie or not, is Pretty in Pink. Like I just am obsessed. I love that movie.
Yeah. Pretty in Pink is a fun movie.
Yeah.
It's definitely what's interesting about Pretty in Pink, and this is just because I had to, actually the same time someone brings up this John Hughes movie. He didn't direct that one. He actually just produced it.
That's right.
Howard Deutsch directed it.
Right.
It's interesting. I've never really gravitated towards any of the John Hughes movies at all, except for Ferris Bueller.
Yeah.
That's the only one that I really connected to, that I really enjoyed, that I have gone back to. And I've seen them all. I remember seeing The Breakfast Club while I was in high school. And so this is now in the like early mid 90s. I remember seeing that and being like, man, I'm sorry. That just like, it felt a little mediocre to me, which I know that's sin. But like, you have to see that movie at a very specific time for it to really speak to you.
Yeah.
And it was just a little bit past that time for me. But Ferris Bueller, for whatever reason, is the one that I would always come back to, that I'm just like, I love this movie.
That's timeless.
I think
I do love Weird Science, though.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
Also, maybe like, I don't know, I haven't seen it in many years, but I think if I went back and watched it today, I would be super cringed out.
Yeah, a little bit.
They make a woman.
They make a sex bot, right?
They make a sex bot, yeah.
Okay.
Making a woman using a 1985 computer. So floppy disks and,
But she teaches them valuable lessons.
She does teach valuable lessons, but she also brings forth, what's his name from the Road Warrior?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Can we just say one thing in Ferris Bueller that I'm like, looking back now, I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. How he just magically hacks the school's computer and erases his attendance records? Like, no, I don't think that's how that works.
Well, it's a subtle nod to War Games.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Matthew Broderick was in War Games, and he hacked the school's computers to change his grades, and it was still dial-up technology. And
then again, I don't know if War Games holds up. I have not seen that in a long time.
Would you like to play a game?
I haven't seen that one in forever either. But
that one's been a long.
I feel like with Ferris Bueller, first of all, it definitely feels like a John Hughes movie, but it's taken on a life of its own.
Yeah.
In so many different ways. I think for a movie that you just mentioned the title, it's like this Yahtzee cup of different things that are just going to come out in your mind every time you bring that up. So if I mention Mike, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Bueller.
My favorite thing, and this is because my mother was a teacher, and the scene of the English professor as they as they're cutting to like the boring school because everyone should just be as awesome as Ferris Bueller. And the professor who's pontificating about in what way do prisons, and it's just right up, and it's like what English teachers did in my high school, and just like drawing the bars over the words and then having to tie it all in with the uses of irony. It was just like, to me, it came out at a perfect time because by the time I was a freshman in high school when I first saw the movie. I had this throughout my entire high school career. Fresh and new and without all the fan theories and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
what I didn't know in preparation for this, we watched all like the special features. Ben Stein's speech about voodoo economics, he improv that whole thing.
Yes.
I'm not surprised.
I couldn't believe that. And everyone stood around him and clapped and thought it was so funny. And he like thought, oh, maybe I just taught them something about economics they didn't know.
Well, you know Ben Stein's background, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I do, actually.
He was a speechwriter for Richard Nixon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that, like, he turned that into, I mean, he turned 3 minutes worth, less than 3 minutes of screen time into like a career.
A career as a Visine spokesman. Or no, Clear Eyes.
Clear Eyes.
Clear Eyes.
Clear Eyes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
But also win Ben Stein's money.
Yep.
Win Ben Stein's money. That's right.
But he also, like, when he would show up as other characters, like, a movie I absolutely adore, and I wish more people would watch it, is Soap Dish, which is a movie about a soap opera. It's a comedy starring Sally Field and Kevin Kline. And he is in the writer's room, but he's still got that monotone while he's looking at things. And they're looking at these dailies of all of these extras that they're bringing in. And because it takes place on this tropical beach, he's just standing there, and he's got he's still got the same glasses. He looks just like the history professor. And he's like, look at the Hooters on that one. And it was just, this is what he will be known for. It's not all of the other works that he did. It also isn't the other stuff that we prefer not to mention about Ben Stein. About
I don't know this.
I don't think
evolutionary denial.
Oh,
really?
Yeah, he did a documentary about that.
I don't like that.
Nope.
He did, however, just invoke the name of my favorite actor, Kevin Kline, so I should probably take a shot or something.
Yeah, well.
You can take a swig of my beer.
There you go. Honestly, Soap Dish, again, a movie I love to death. Really needs to become a musical. That's the hill I'm dying on.
Oh, yeah.
I do recommend, if you can watch it, and we're not going to devolve too far off of this. I think it's on Amazon. It's amazing.
Great.
But Ferris Bueller.
Ferris Bueller.
This is I think this is the pinnacle of Matthew Broderick's coolness.
Ooh.
Would you agree, Mike? Would you agree? Because you just gave me the ooh.
No, I'm just trying to think of what other movies I know Matthew Broderick from.
Right. Because there's that point where he's doing that. He was kind of cool in War Games.
Right.
And then he kind of just devolved to dweebiness.
Yeah. Cable Guy, he's a dweeb.
Yeah. Like
Producers, he's a dweeb.
Put Upon Guy, producers.
I mean, he was Simba. I mean, he was the king of Pride Rock. Like,
but he was a dweebish king. He had to learn how to be. He started as a dweeb king.
That's true. I think that's a good point. And I was thinking about his performance and how marvelously he's cast, and how like you would think this is the kind of thing you could put any like young, hot rising star in this role, and they could probably do something with it. But there's something that he does that is just so there's a subtlety he brings to it that he's not overplaying Ferris at all. He's literally like, he's full of energy, and yet he's also like too cool to be in the movie. Like he just delivers it with such dispassion in some ways that it just, this is another day for Ferris. And like, I don't have a car.
I think part of that is he's got this unsaid charm that he's, I'm a bad little boy, without actually having to say that out loud. You can tell it in his smirk. He doesn't have these big toothy smiles. Everything is just like this little sideways smirk. But you're right, Laurel. He is really cool. Just you look around his room, and it's just this temple of everything I thought was cool in 1986. It was all there.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a particularly nice character. He's not someone that you should look up to, but he carries it with such he's basically Loki.
Yep, he's a trickster.
Yes, he's a trickster.
That's exactly what he is. He is a trickster. He uses his charms for his own selfish whims. If he's occasionally is altruistic with them, like how he pushes Cameron out of his comfort zone, but he is definitely a trickster.
Right. And at the same time, though, it's not going to be Ferris that's going to be hanging around with that ass whooping that Cameron's dad's going to be giving him later on.
No consequences for Ferris. Absolutely
none.
No,
it's funny.
He's a trickster.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way he skirts this. By the way, Mike, nice tie-in to the whole hypothesis of the Midnight Myth there. Very nice. Good job.
And plus, our co-host Joe would never forgive us if we didn't mention how awful it was that he destroyed a 1961 Ferrari 250 California Spider.
Yeah. True.
That was a gorgeous car too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, it's Cameron that destroys it, right?
Yeah. He kicks it enough times that just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. He completely demolishes that car.
I love the idea that all we need to do is put it in reverse, and the odometer is just going to go like total teenage boy logic.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite work.
No.
Others work.
The miles aren't coming off.
Oh man.
I think it's great that the one thing I just never sits right with me is his relationship with Sloane.
Mm-hmm.
Because she does seem more like a pal than she does an actual. There are times I just feel like she is more of a pal than she is a girlfriend. Like the second he goes to college, Sloane can deal with her senior year on her own.
Oh yeah, I have a pet theory that Sloane ends up with Cameron, but I also a little bit buy into the sort of Fight Club theory of it. Like I don't think Ferris is real.
I love that idea. I was going to bring that up earlier.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think that is the intention of John Hughes, but that is how I like to read the movie because Cameron's the main character. Cameron's the one with an arc. Cameron's the one who actually grows and changes, and it's just because there's this little mischief maker who is pulling all the strings, and I think it's about Cameron.
Yeah. It was Ferris. Enough with this Ferris person you keep bringing up. Who is Ferris Bueller?
Oh man.
Yeah.
It is really funny because you're right about that. He is the only one who actually grows, learns anything. Sloane doesn't learn anything. Jeannie might
Jeannie a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, but what did she learn that she could make out with bad boys?
Yeah.
Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, I mean the confrontation where she's complaining about how he gets away with everything. He's like, well, you could ditch. Why don't you? Because I'd get caught. And it's like, oh, there's actually a paradigm shift that happens. It's like, yeah, Ferris can do whatever he wants. Ferris gets away with everything, but there's actually nothing stopping any of us from breaking society's rules. Right. And who knows what Jeannie will end up doing, but then she makes out with Charlie Sheen, and then she covers for Ferris, and she loosens up a little bit, and I think that opportunity in the future to break some rules.
She also tosses Rooney's wallet.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I have an older sister. Does everyone here have siblings?
Yes.
Older sister.
Younger sister.
Younger sister, yeah.
My sister was the cool one that got away with everything, and I was the dork that always got caught in the crossfires. I got caught for everything. So I'm very much Jeannie in this movie, right? And what I love, no matter how much it drove me crazy that my sister was cooler than me and got away with everything, I would always push come to shove. I'd always cover for her. No matter what. Yeah. And she'd always cover for me,
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. Kurt here mentions since Farrah went to a Cubs game, she'd go to a White Sox.
Yeah.
It's...
You're right about Sloane. She's not much of a character.
No.
She's more an accessory and a shell, which I think is kind of par for the course in that time, where it's just the cool guy just needs a pretty girl to go with him, but it's really about Ferris and Cameron and their friendship. I
do like the performance, though. I like Mia Sara. She's really, I think she's a really interesting balancing presence to all of that. And I genuinely think that she and Cameron have actual chemistry where there's not actually much going on between her and Ferris. The scenes that she shares with Cameron are the ones where they talk about the future. They're the ones where Cameron actually bears his soul a little bit. And that can be nice to have an additional presence. So even if she's not fully fleshed out, she's important.
Right.
Agreed.
It's funny too, you mentioned the whole thing about, sisters and everything, because I for the longest time, and it used to piss my sister off like you wouldn't believe, when she got her senior picture done, your high school senior picture done, she didn't realize how much eye makeup she put on.
No.
And it really, like, it wasn't, my mother would have never let her leave the house with that much eye makeup for any reason, even senior photo, but for some reason, it just really, like, stood out. And I saw the picture, and I looked at it, and I looked at her and goes, you wear too much eye makeup. My sister wears too much eye makeup. People think she's a whore. She got so pissed, but I would just bring that up every single time I'd look at that picture.
Oh man, that's great.
Amazing.
Yeah. Are there any like little bits from the movie that you just use in your everyday life? Like unprompted, not like I'm going to quote Ferris Bueller right now, but just like.
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, you know, life comes at you fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. And like, that's not something that I like literally say all the time, but as a new parent, like,
yep.
The new parenthood is a crazy whirlwind of a time. It is like the hardest thing you'll ever do. And it can be really hard to like take that opportunity and be like, oh, I'm not going to get this. I'm actually not going to get this back. And there will be a day when I even miss being like completely covered in spit up and not having slept in days. And so, yeah, I'm reflecting on that more as a new mom, for sure.
Yeah. As somebody with older kids, my oldest is 13 years old. Yeah, I definitely can commiserate with that. There were just times we look at our time hop pictures of my daughter, and she's like 5'7" now. And it's just like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Just how different 13 years is. And my son is, you know, he's still like this little pixie-ish little imp that just runs around in a loincloth because he forgot social graces over the last year and a half. But, yeah, it's just, you're right about that. That life does come at you really fast. I think for me, well, first of all, anytime I go to a restaurant and they have that little, like, which I'm sure that's a COVID casualty. That's never coming back. But the dish of mints.
Yeah.
Every single time. Mint.
God, yeah.
Every damn time. Every Chinese restaurant I go to, just any place I go to, if they've got the mints, I'm mint.
Yep.
Yes.
How about you, Derek?
Every baseball game I've ever been to, I have sat down, and I've been to a lot of baseball games. I'm a big baseball fan. One year, 2009, I went to 20 Phillies games.
Wow.
Yes, I went to 20. I could have bought a season package and spent less, but I went to 20 individual games.
We went to the World Series that year, right?
There was no World Series that year.
09?
No, it didn't exist. There was an actual.
Oh, yeah.
There was a vacuum.
That's right. It didn't exist.
That nullified that World Series from actually happening.
Yeah.
But the Phillies would have gone to the World Series had it happened that year, but it didn't happen in 2009.
Yeah, it just didn't happen.
But yeah, every time I've been to a Phillies game, every time swing, swing, like
yeah. Oh,
and I have done that so much that I forgot it came from Ferris Bueller. And then rewatching it prior to this review, I'm like, I got that from Ferris Bueller.
Yeah. I had never heard. I'd been to baseball games prior, and I had never heard that before Ferris Bueller. And even though sometimes, I mean, it's been 4 years since I've actually been to a baseball. I'm going to a baseball game next week for the Red Sox home, like for their minor league team. I'm very excited. It's the first baseball game with the kids. And okay, so Kurt has been to Wrigley Field and actually has said the hey bada bada.
Yeah.
Which is great. I will say though, every time anybody asks me the score of any game, who's winning? The Bears.
Nothing.
Oh, Rudy is such a tool.
The thing with Rooney is that he's comically evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like the kind of evil like the opposing camp on the other side of the lake is in like Meatballs.
Yeah. Yep. And it's just sad too. It's really pathetic that like he just cannot let a child have a day off of school. Like he's so threatened by this little boy that he just cannot abide it, and he does breaking and entering, and
he is just like the assistant vice principal of my high school, who was also in charge of discipline and punishment.
Yeah,
it was just like,
just takes sick pleasure.
You take one little step out of line, and I'm coming down like 1,000% on you. So
yeah. Well, from everything I have been told, and it could be different based on where you live, but from everything I'm aware of, a dean of students is usually like a vice principal, or I don't think he's a vice principal. It's called the assistant principal, at least here in Massachusetts. Like in my junior high and my high school, we had one principal and two vice principals, and one of them was in charge of the discipline. He was the dean of students, like Ed Rooney. And we got away with so much because it was very easy, because he wasn't very bright. Yeah. At least Ed Rooney was determined. He had this laser focus on just because, if Ferris is allowed to do this, then he just loses control.
Yeah.
I can see the grown-up point of this. And I can also see that if Jeannie hadn't made out with Charlie Sheen, that she could have become a Ed Rooney.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But also, like, I think, how bored is Ed Rooney in his job that he can literally leave the school and go hunt Ferris Bueller? Like, this is also someone that does not have enough work to do for the whole day. I can't just leave my job and go on an adventure for like 4 hours, hunting down someone that might not be there that should be. Yep. Like he's also tragically bored, and I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's also an asshole. When Cameron does that, doing that voice, it's just, that's my high point of the movie.
Pardon my French. You know the kills me too about Alan Ruck? Alan Ruck was in his mid-30s when he did this movie.
Yeah.
Really? He was a lot old. Because we, my wife and I, Autumn, we started watching Succession. And Alan Ruck is in Succession. And it's like, he's the older brother. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at him like, oh man, he was Cameron. Let me, as usually what I do is, Kurt's correct me. He was 29. So he was almost 30. Thank you, Kurt. But no, that's like that whole thing. It's like, was it Stockard Channing, like 32 when she played
Rizzo?
Kurt, can you do me a favor? Look up how old Stockard Channing was.
In Greece,
please.
Everybody in Greece was in their 30s. Like, you look back at that, you're like, ooh. He's supposed to be 17.
I could unpack Grease, and I've got my own theories about that too. That the whole thing happens in Sandy's head as a fever dream as she drowned to death.
Sure.
While Danny is just like trying to like cop a clumsy feel because it's such a wee bit.
Yeah.
But, Andy, that's a dark theory, my friend.
I like it.
It's the only explanation for why the car flies in the end and ascends into heaven.
Magical realism.
LSD.
But I will say, we mentioned she was 30. All right, I'll put this up here. She was 33. Good work, sir. Good work doing that research for me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have an off-site producer here. It's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, 33-year-old high school student. Edie McClurg, just like Ben Stein, made a career out of this character.
Of Grace?
Of Grace, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. The pens.
Oh my gosh. She's just
coming out of her hair the entire time. And she's like, she just feels, and there's another one there.
Picking up the phone and,
But the thing too, when she is, when Ed is going insane, it's not like she has a bottle of bourbon in her desk. She has to huff whiteout.
Yeah.
To get through the day. I think that is brilliant.
Oh man.
But she's phenomenal in this. Again, a line I use all the time whenever I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. Well, with your bad knee, Ed, you shouldn't throw anybody.
Apparently, she did her hair herself, and she walked onto set, and John Hughes just looks and goes, "How many pencils do you think you could get in your hair?" And And she was just like, let's find out, and started putting pencils in her hair, just seeing how many she could put in there. And that's where the pencil gag came from.
She is wonderful. She is, every time she's in anything, she's a scene stealer. And I adore her. Yeah. Because I really feel like that is her genuine personality. She's just this sweet, middle-aged, Midwest lady that just is just there. Like her whole monologue about Ferris Bueller
being a righteous,
everybody loves him, and she goes into the dweebies, the dickheads,
the wastoids,
all of the names that John Hughes has used over the course of his filmography up to that point, because they all show up like the dregs of high school society always show up in these movies. The bus in 16 Candles is that. It's that group of nerds that can't afford cars or not cool enough to ride with friends. They're all in that, and that's
sadly the first time I ever saw Edie McClurg was in Small Wonder.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right. She was the nosy neighbor. I think that came out the same year.
Yeah, she was.
She was the neighbor who the sole reason for building the robot in the first place is just to make sure the neighbors don't find out that she's a robot.
Yeah, that was not a good show.
No, it wasn't.
I think I've seen that show. It's like it's triggering all kinds of memories that I had repressed.
Yeah.
I am a robot. That's exactly how the actress played the robot. It just
this is a family show, so I'm not really going to bring up the whole dark theory I have about that one. So, and it gets dark.
Yeah, I've heard it. It gets very dark.
This is what happens when you get sober, Andy, on these things. So
it just gets dark, and everything is like everybody is dead and in hell and trapped.
Oh no! There's another reason entirely why the dad built that robot. Equals 4. I want to take a second here to talk about the soundtrack, because this is one of the great unreleased soundtracks of moviedom.
Got the Smiths.
You know what? That was a big point of contention with my friends, that they didn't actually give us the Smiths version of Please Let Me Get What I Want.
Yeah.
It was the Dream Academy.
Right. Oh, I thought it was just like a modified like instrumental track. It's a cover?
It is a cover. Like if you go on your choice of music streaming service, like I use Spotify, and I went in today to look to see if they'd actually ever released a full soundtrack. It's not there, but certain tracks were released. So Please Let Me Get What I Want from Dream Academy is in there.
They did release the soundtrack in 2016.
They did.
Limited to 5,000 copies.
30th anniversary.
Okay. Yeah.
Did they release Beat City?
By
the Flower Pot Heads, or the Flower Pot Man.
The Flower Pot Men's Beat City makes its first official release on CD with a new mix done by the Flower Pot Men's Ben Watkins and Adam Peters. It differs from the original 7-inch Fan Club release. That is my favorite song on the soundtrack, and it was not available. Like I can find on YouTube. It's a song that they play when they're driving into Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Due to licensing restrictions, Twist and Shout Taking the Day Off and March of the Swivelheads were not included. How can you have a Ferris Bueller soundtrack and not have Twist and Shout?
Not a Twist and Shout, yeah.
You have to pay Beatles royalties for that, Mike.
That's true.
I'm sure they didn't have to pay Beatles.
1986 was a weird year for that song because it appeared in not one but 2 hit movies.
I wonder if they had to pay.
It shows up in Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh, it does, doesn't it?
Which they didn't have to pay royalties for Donkashane.
Jeez. All right. Okay, so let me ask you this thing. This is a question I was going to ask later, but I might as well bring it in now. Was this the first instance you ever heard the song Donkashane?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
100%.
And was your mind blown when you found out that a man sang that song?
I was today years old when I found out that a man sang that song.
Newton.
I didn't know either.
It's Wayne Newton who sang Donkashane.
All right.
Yeah.
Word.
We learn things on this show. We're like your show. We're educational.
I may have to quit.
Yeah.
I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
I'm broken.
Yeah, John Hughes apparently called that song the most awful song of my youth. He hated that song.
Oh my God.
Oh, man. Can we talk about the Twist and Shout scene a little bit, like the parade scene? Like it is so insane and it's so beautiful, and it's cutting to these professional dancers.
Gives me full on anxiety.
That just happened to be there, like doing a professional dance.
Oh, they're doing the Thriller choreography.
They're doing Thriller choreography to Twist and Shout.
Yeah.
And now I was in marching band. I've done a lot of parades. They're never that cool.
No.
And so like there's a little bit of like, and I love a good parade. I really do. I don't say that to disparage the parade. There's a little bit of like magic realism that's happening.
Yeah. Ferris Bueller's a fantasy.
Yeah, where Ferris Bueller like casts his like charisma charms, and he gets on this thing and he just charms everybody with a song he's not actually singing. Almost like the Greek sirens, like how they like lure Odysseus, pardon me, and his ship, and like he's got this like magic ability, and then suddenly people are dancing in choreography, and all of this just to prove to Cameron that today is a good day.
Yeah, or he's Puck from A Midsummer Night's Dream. He's the little sprite, and then he goes and works his magic, and everybody kind of bends to his will. But it's all in good fun. Like it's not vicious. It's not wicked. It's all in good fun.
Kurt mentions the streets of Chicago are littered with professional dancers. Once I got caught a flash mob outside the Sears Tower.
There's a huge, massive theater community out there. So I would imagine there's a ton of performing arts professionals who are just...
That's where some of the best comedy troupes come from in Chicago. Second City is huge there. The Groundlings are from Chicago as well.
Yeah, my cousin studied with the Second City.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. What I love about the parade, first of all, that there's just on a weekday, just this random weekday, there is a German fest going on.
Wait, it's actually for von Steuben's Day.
I was like, who's the guy? Yeah.
Von Steuben. Yes.
Von Steuben Day Parade.
But I don't know von Steuben. I think von Steuben was part of the American Revolutionary War. A lot of Prussians trained American soldiers in that. So I think that's why you have von Steuben Day. I could be making that up.
Yeah, it sounds like you're making that up.
No, actually, I just looked it up. Von Steuben was a Prussian-born who arrived in the United States as a volunteer offering his services to General George Washington in the American Revolutionary War.
I'm too good. I didn't even know that.
Bravo.
I'm too good.
You're learning through osmosis now.
Yeah.
I knew that if we went for a little bit, that eventually just this amazing history and mythology and everything would just come out. It's this amazing talent that you both have. So
you got this problem. You gotta maintain this army. You don't know how to train them because you're a slaver from Virginia, and everybody in Europe hates the English just as much as you do. So you have them come on over, and the Prussians were like, "Yeah, let's go," and let's. And the Prussians were huge in helping George Washington train the armies. So that's boom.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah, that whole scene is just, and I love that his father is like, well, first he's stuck in traffic, and then he's in the middle, then he's in his high rise.
Yeah.
He never bothers to look out the window.
No. Can we talk for a second about the parents?
Yes. Please.
Well, so first of all, interesting piece of trivia. The actors who played Mr. and Mrs. Bueller met, fell in love, and got married.
Yep.
Yeah.
Solely through the Ferris Bueller production.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They were dating, I think, when they went to Chicago to shoot the movie.
Oh, okay.
Like they met, they met to like read with each other, and then like went out for a drink, and then one thing led to another. A couple months later, they went to actually shoot, and they were like in love. It's amazing.
It is. It's an amazing story.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I especially liked the dad. I just liked how clueless the dad was. And I've never seen them in anything else after that.
Yeah, I can't think of anything I've seen them in.
they could have been Hughes' stock players from that point on, and for some reason it just didn't happen.
Well, the father did appear in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
As
John, uncredited.
Okay.
And he also appeared in She's Having a Baby. Was that John Hughes? Yeah, that was John Hughes.
Yeah, it was John Hughes.
Also appeared as himself, uncredited.
Okay.
So, cool.
Yeah, She's Having a Baby is... I had the idea of maybe watching that movie when my wife was pregnant with our first, and I decided against it when I remembered that not Mary Stuart Masterson, Elizabeth Perkins is she has an insanely difficult pregnancy.
Oh,
like
yeah.
It's more the delivery, like send the dad out into the lobby. We can't have him here type of difficult. Yeah. So I don't advise that to anybody who is having a child anytime in the near future.
That is a good warning to have.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It's also weird too because this is the first, I think this was the first movie I saw Alec Baldwin in.
Also a content warning. Content warning for Alec Baldwin.
But he's the world's greatest actor.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. You know what the funny? No, actually, I saw Beetlejuice first, so I had the Alec Baldwin in Beetlejuice is not Alec Baldwin.
No,
in my opinion, just he is this sweet, nice guy, and then everything after that is Glengarry Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
For me, the first Alec Baldwin was Hunt for Red October.
Yeah.
Still
my favorite version of
Jack Ryan.
Yeah,
I agree. I fully agree with that.
Yeah.
I think this movie is so much fun. It's funny because for most of John Hughes' movies and most teen movies in general, they're time capsules of the 80s. This kind of feels like it's the least 80s of the 80s classics.
Yep. I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think the reason this movie has endured so long after it came out compared to other teen movies that you might go back and revisit and be like, it was great when I watched it as a teenager, like teen movie we all loved, Half-Baked. So much fun. I put on Half-Baked now. I totally laugh at when I watch that movie. But it's not a good movie. It doesn't in the respect compared to Ferris Bueller. And I think Ferris Bueller, it's weird because the beginning of the movie does ground itself in a sort of, I'm going to articulate the Bueller philosophy of life. Yeah. And that Bueller philosophy is there is no philosophy. Just live in the moment. Don't think about it. He even says, I don't do isms. I don't think those are right. I think I'm just going to stop and smell the flowers. And that message is a really powerful message that permeates throughout the rest of the movie. I think that's why, to me, it's so enduring because this character is just living this really romantic truth that most of us are so swept up in oh my God, I'd love to live that way if I really could.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. There's the carpe diem aspect to it, but I think it goes deeper than that. And I think Ferris articulates it for us in the beginning. He's like, I don't do isms. I couldn't care about what's going on halfway across the world. I still don't have a car, blah, blah, blah. Lays that out for us. But I think it's perfectly encapsulated. I think that the entire movie fits into this sequence from the Art Institute of Chicago. I think that is the key to the movie, especially Cameron standing in front of the Georges Seurat painting where you're seeing his face, the close-ups become more extreme, and then you go deeper and deeper into the dots. The painting, Sunday Afternoon on the Island of La Grande Jatte, is pointillism. So it's little paint dots that if you look close, they're just a mess. And then if you back up, you can see the whole picture. And what's happening in that painting is what Ferris's actual philosophy is. It's, okay, yeah, the big picture is important. It's beautiful. One day we'll think back on this time. One day we'll be able to see the patterns. But right now, what really matters is the dots. Your whole life is getting your friend to take out his dad's car so that you can go to a Cubs game. Your whole life is drinking Pepsi and eating Oreos in the hot tub. Your whole life is about how do you scam the principal so that you can get your girlfriend out of class or go and crash a parade. Like that's the only thing that matters when you're that age, especially.
And steal someone's lunch reservation.
Yeah.
Pancreas.
Be the sausage king of Chicago. Yeah.
Well, it's funny, Laurel, you mentioned the Seurat painting, because I have an extensive background in musical theater. So, like, that's Sunday in the Park with George.
Sunday in the Park with George.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it's funny.
He met his wife doing "You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown."
Oh, yes. I love it.
We are. Yeah, we are theater folk.
I love it.
But
yeah.
I remember watching when the first time I saw Sunday in the Park with George. I was watching it and I'm like, that's the painting of Ferris Bueller.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's why that musical is so good.
Yeah. I think the only thing I felt like, other than some of the technology, if you could just special edition and get rid of the technology, like the $8,000 Casio keyboard that runs on floppy disks.
Yeah.
And, that waiter had a look, the waiter in the Sausage King of Chicago scene had a look that was specific to 1986.
Right.
Brush back hair, pencil thin mustache.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't happen 87. It didn't happen in 85. It was this one. It is a moment that is now preserved in amber that people used to look like that. Grown up still look like that.
On purpose, like by choice.
This was a conscious decision.
Probably paid a lot of money to look like that too.
Oh, that was a good coif.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Got the little scissors and trimmed that mustache real tight.
This is about as good as it gets for me. I trim my cheeks because I'll become a mountain man otherwise. What's that? You also have to add lights at Wrigley Field. So that's right.
Yeah.
They couldn't play nighttime baseball.
Man.
They started doing that in 1988 with Field of Dreams.
Yep.
It's I remember that. I remember what a big deal it was when Wrigley got the lights.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, people were like, no, you can't do this to Wrigley. Like, you are not allowed to add lights. Like, Wrigley can't be changed. And then, lo and behold, I want to go to baseball games at night sometimes.
Yeah.
That it's a good thing sometimes. Yeah, we being from Boston, I've been to more than my share of Fenway Park games. And every time I go to a different ballpark, it's like I hear my friend's voice ringing in my ears saying that you're going to go to Camden Yards, you're going to go to this park here, and you're going to want to strangle the Fenway faithful. Because, like, Camden Yards, I think is the most, I haven't been to that many ballparks. That's one of my bucket list things. Mm-hmm. Camden Yards is a gorgeous park.
Yeah.
Because there's concourses, and it's easy to get around, and there's plenty of stuff. And it's like, then I go back to Fenway Park. It's like, okay, well, these chairs didn't fit my rear end in the 1920s. They're not going to fit it now. And they build up. Like, if you've seen a Red Sox game, they build up. So they still add seats, but they're going up into the skies. And I love my Red Sox, but dang.
The nosebleed section is very true.
Yeah. When you said Camden Yards, you mean Wrigley, right?
Well, Kurt mentioned Wrigley Field. I'm just saying I've never been to Wrigley because I've never been to Chicago. You established that earlier. Right. But I have been to Camden Yards, which I was told would just make me want to slap the Fenway faithful because it's so modern.
Yeah.
Yeah. I caught it at Wrigley, and it is probably, if you're a baseball fan, it's one of the best baseball experiences you can have.
Yeah.
The entire part of Chicago where Wrigley's at is just dedicated to baseball. Like a
Wrigley Town, right?
Yeah, it's called Wrigley Town.
Nice.
And the Cubs fans, for a major city with a huge, big market sports team, were really ridiculously nice.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, like
not like some sports fans I know, and some.
No, I'll even admit I'm insufferable. But that's like prior to everything shutting down, I was doing a lot of traveling for work. And I'm like, I'm going to be going to the Bronx. I should go to a Yankees game. I'm sure I could just buy a bleacher seat somewhere, hide all of my identity and just show
Wear
up.
your cloak of invisibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Kurt says that Wrigley Field is heaven on earth. Very nice. That's very nice. But yes, I would go to a Yankee Stadium and just be like, please don't let me have a dog in this fight. Don't let me have a dog in this fight. Don't let me have a dog in this fight.
Hey, it's Red Sox versus Yankees. Oh,
damn it. No, you couldn't get tickets for that. I'm like, oh, please let it be interleague play. Let it be the Diamondbacks. I don't care.
I gotta say, the new Yankee Stadium is very, very nice.
That's what I've heard.
I've been to a lot of baseball stadiums. We're totally off track, but
yeah,
like
what we do.
Your perfect day off is a day at the baseball stadium, as far as I'm concerned. So I'll say there are, of the stadiums I've been to, of the quote unquote newer stadiums, the classic stadiums, I actually put Yankee Stadium kind of low on the list. Okay. Yeah, like, it's a very nice, well-made, well-maintained. It has this like sort of mausoleum feel. Like you look at it and you're like, I'm looking at the Colosseum of Rome. So the exterior architecture is really great, but like you can't get a good beer because like they had a contract with, I think it was Bud Light. So like every beer's a Bud Light. So if you don't like Bud Light, you're kind of like SOL. And it's in the Bronx, which is no disrespect to anyone from the Bronx. Like you can't, it's not a really fun part of New York.
Well, you also got to get to the Bronx, which can take hours.
It's not easy to get to. It's not easy to get back from. And there's not a lot to do in the Bronx other than go to the stadium there. So like compared to like Wrigley, it's like Wrigley, it's just like, I can move here. Like this is amazing.
I just remember from the opening credit sequence of Perfect Strangers, you can just run right up to it. So, yeah. Have you been to the Baseball Hall of Fame?
I have.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that place. I'm waiting. Eventually, we're going to do a guys' weekend away to Cooperstown, but we want to wait until we're back to like you can kind of come and go. You just pay for the day, and you can kind of come and go as you please, and not be this thing where you can only go for here's your hour and a half. Don't leave because we're not going to let you back in.
Yeah. I went for a friend's bachelor party and we went in March.
Ooh.
And so nobody was there. It was still winter because we're like, it's close enough to spring. It'll be
New York.
No, it snowed like,
You're in the North Pole.
Yeah. It snowed and nobody was there. And so we were in the Hall of Fame and it was just empty and it was so awesome.
Yeah, it is. We got there so early in the morning that it was just we had the hall to ourselves, and it was wonderful. Awesome. And then I got lectured by a bunch of New York fans because I was wearing my Red Sox jersey that we need to take winning more gracefully. So, yeah, true story. But
anyway. Always the Yankees fans.
Yeah, exactly. Even the National League people are like, Yankees. So, anyway, thank you guys so much for suggesting Ferris Bueller. This was a really fun conversation. Thanks for bringing it. First of all, thanks for classing up the joint, but also thank you for giving us some real great stuff to think about and talk about with this movie. It's funny because you can look at it as being just a teen movie. A friend of mine, Dave McLean, who is an author that we've featured on our show before, he had mentioned that his 15-year-old son, this is his favorite of the 80s teen movies. And he watched them all. And this is the one he resonated with the most because I think it's the most timeless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think when it comes to critical analysis of media, people tend to look down on the popular stuff and say, oh, it's trite. One of the most popular stories in the world at a time was this little thing called the Iliad. And a little boy named Alexander memorized it and he conquered the world because of it. So like these stories actually do matter because we tell them to each other. They say a lot about us. And the reason these movies resonate decade after decade is because there is something to be learned from it. So like, I love taking a thing like Ferris Bueller and like, let's really peel this thing apart and ask like, what's really happening here? What story is being told? Has it been told before and will it be told again? And there's always going to be room for young people wanting to look at the powers that be, whether that's Zeus or Ed Rooney, and be like, I'm going to do my own thing. And I'm not going to listen to you, and I'm going to beat by my own drum. And that's going to inspire people, I think, for countless generations to come. And that's why I love it.
Awesome.
That sounds like the premise of a podcast that I'd like to listen to.
Yes, exactly. Maybe you guys could tell us, where do we find that podcast?
Absolutely. You can find us pretty much anywhere podcasts are found. Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, you name it, we're pretty much there. Just search the Midnight Myth Podcast and you can find us. We're also on social media. We're fairly active on Twitter. We're at the Midnight Myth. We're a little less active lately because we have a 6-month-old and there's only so many hours in the day. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. We're at Midnight Myth Podcast on Instagram. And we're on the web at midnightmyth.com, and we would love to hear from you. So drop us a line, check us out, give us a listen, and
Thank you very much.
Their episode of Jaws. Their episode of Jaws was the first one I ever listen to.
Yeah,
brilliant.
That was a really fun one. That one was
thank you.
A great time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think actually, going back to Beetlejuice, I think that was the first one I listened to, and it was just fantastic because I was out for my walk, listening to the podcast and building the history of everything in my mind as I was talking about it. So this is, I've told a lot of people this before, yours is not the typical movie podcast. And that's what I love about it, is that it tackles movies from a very different perspective. I mean, Mike and I talk about movies, we just talk about, okay, well, this is funny and this is funny. Hey, what about this fan theory? Man, this movie aged poorly. Why did we review Caddyshack 2, Kurt? But I'm just waiting for it to pop up. But I really appreciate both of you being here. This was fantastic. I love having this conversation with you. So we want to know, Mike and I want to know, what are your thoughts on Ferris Bueller? If you love it, if you've never seen it before, leave a polite comment below. Follow us here on YouTube. Just give that button a little tap to subscribe. Strokes, mustache, and laughs. Yes. And then we had to do Cars 2 immediately after that. It was not fun. But we got our own series coming up, which I'm going to go into in a second. So let us know. Tap that subscribe button. Don't smash it. Just tap it. Your screen will appreciate it. Share this video too if you really like what you saw. Share with your friends. We'd love to hear that. Mike and I also host a little podcast called Geek Salad. You can find it wherever you find Derek and Laurel's podcast, because we're pretty much all at the same places. We are active on Twitter, Geek Salad Radio, and on Facebook at Geek Salad Podcast. And next week, we are going to start our summer movie project. We put a poll out last week asking you what box office failures do you want us to cover? And we put 4 movies up, and the order, based on their votes, will be the order we take them in. So our number 1 pick, and the movie we're going to review next week, is the 1993 classic with a K, Last Action Hero, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger.
That's the one I voted for.
It was our runaway number 1. Yeah. And then what I tried to do was I tried to be cute with number 4. I'm like, okay, let's just see if we can throw another movie in here. And they still went number 4. So our number 4. So going through the next few weeks, we're going to be doing Last Action Hero, John Carter, Hudson Hawk, and then the 2013 Lone Ranger.
Wow. Okay.
And then I think Mike and I are going to need a palate cleansing and do Inner Space afterwards, because I really want to talk about that one. Yeah. I love it. However, I'm not fool enough to think that it did well. So Inner Space is a brilliant movie. So anyway, again,
one last thing to say.
Yes, sir.
It's over. Go home.
Go home. Derek, Laurel, I so appreciate you all.
Yes, thank you.
Here. Thank you so much. Listen to their show.
Yeah.
And until next time, I'm Andy.
I'm Mike.
Go forth and be nerdful. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.